flows into the salt water. And then this inlet here zigzags out and ends up out in the Bay of Islands. So we've got really deep water, not far out there, suitable for anchoring large vessels. Hope you don't mind me showering you with kettles as I talk. I'm doing it especially, you know. And then the other thing to notice is the flat-topped hill just over there. Now, before Europeans came to New Zealand, that hill was a fortified position. It was a pa, which is a hill that's been terraced and palisaded so it can't be attacked from below. And that pa was the stronghold of a powerful chief from the Ngāpuhi tribe, a chief named Hongi Hika. And Chief Hongi had the fortified hill, but he also had an unfortified village that stretched from there right around that ridgeline and up to behind those modern gum trees over there. And at times there were up to 2,000 members of the Ngāpuhi tribe gathered on that ridgeline. So this was a very significant place long before Europeans arrived. And then in the late 1700s, early 1800s, Europeans and Americans first started arriving in New Zealand. So American whalers and sealers came across the Pacific, and Europeans came looking for raw materials that they were running out of in Europe. And two things they were running short of were to do with the shipbuilding industry. They needed timber and they needed rope. Now, we didn't have any timber right on this position. This had already been cleared generations earlier for gardens. But we were surrounded by kauri forests, and a mature kauri tree produces a huge volume of hard, straight-grained timber, so perfect for shipbuilding. And for rope, we've got our harakeke, the New Zealand flax, which is the one with the spiky leaves, the one that's in flower down there at the moment. And the leaves of the flax have a wonderful fibre that's very strong and very pliable, so make perfect rope for sailing ships. So when the new arrivals realised they could have as much timber and as much rope as they could ever dream of in one place, that trade started to take off very quickly. And most of the trade took place further out in the bay, at a small town we now know as Russell, but was known as Kororareka. Have any of you been to Russell?
I've seen it from a distance.
Are you planning to go to Russell?
Yeah, all going well.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea. It's a terrible place, didn't they tell you? It's full of drunken sailors and escaped convicts. And houses of ill repute. Oh dear, I'll keep an eye on him if I were you, madam. But one of the advantages of all those ships, I mean, this is a reputation common with port towns all over the world. They're all known for attracting riffraff. But one of the advantages of all those ships coming and going from Kororareka was that some of our young Ngāpuhi chiefs got aboard those ships and they sailed the world on those ships. And some of them went all the way to England and they were introduced to the kings of England. And this is the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. They were given amazing things to bring back for their people. And so one of the young chiefs who travelled was a relative of our chief from this hill. Our chief was Hongi Hika, but this young man was Ruatara. And Ruatara lived on a peninsula just to the north of us. And he was about 17 when he chose a whaling ship for his journey to England. And my advice to you is don't choose a whaling ship for a long journey. He was treated very badly on that ship. He expected to be treated like a king, a man of his status should have been, and instead he was treated like a slave. And he was beaten and starved. And by the time he arrived in England, he was in really bad health. And so he just wanted to come home, and he got aboard the very next ship that was heading this way, and that would take him as a passenger. And that ship was going to New South Wales in Australia. And a fellow passenger on that ship was the Reverend Samuel Marsden of Parramatta, who was an Anglican minister and head of the Church Missionary Society in the South Pacific. And Marsden nursed Ruatara back to health on that long journey. Now, some of you nodded when I said Marsden. Some of you have come across him before. He hasn't got a good reputation. He's not known for his kindness, but according to young Ruatara, Marsden was very kind to him. And when Ruatara returned to New Zealand, he in his turn invited Marsden to come to New Zealand with him to bring missionaries and, importantly, to bring the power of the written word to teach Ruatara's people. And so Marsden and his missionaries landed on the peninsula here in December of 1814. And the very first Christian service in New Zealand was the Christmas service of 1814 held on the peninsula. Unfortunately, young Chief Ruatara died soon afterwards, so Marsden left his missionaries here. He returned to Australia. He never lived in New Zealand. He had left his missionaries under Ruatara's care, and Ruatara died in 1819, which left the missionaries very vulnerable. They were in danger of being attacked by Ruatara's rivals. So Marsden returned on his second visit in 1819, and that's when our chief, Hongi Hika, invited Marsden to bring the missionaries around here to Kerikeri. So Marsden came for a look, and he saw we've got good flat land and fertile soil, we've got plenty of fresh water, but best of all, we've got 2,000 potential converts to Christianity right here on the ridge. So Marsden thought this is the perfect place for his second mission station. So the Kerikeri mission station was established in 1819, and that makes this New Zealand's longest continuous European settlement. Those missionaries and their descendants have stayed here ever since 1819. Other settlements were abandoned at different times, but Kerikeri stayed. So Marsden sent 4 main missionary families. Now, none of those men was an ordained minister. They were all lay preachers. They all had other skills that were useful in a new settlement. So there were 2 carpenters, a blacksmith and a school teacher, along with their wives and children. And they built a very modest little hut with a dirt floor. And when it rained, the thatched roof leaked and the floor turned to mud. And they wrote in their journals about being ankle deep in mud and lifting all their worldly goods off the floor. And you've got 4 families sharing one little muddy hut, and they're starting to get annoyed with each other, and they're writing letters to Marsden, who's living in comfort at the Parramatta mission station. They're writing him letters and saying, Mr. Marsden, this is a terrible place, and all my neighbours are lazy people, and I'm the only one who does any work. So Marsden knew there was trouble brewing, and the little community was about to fall apart. So he did 2 things to help them. The first thing he did was he appointed a servant for each missionary family. So 4 convicts from New South Wales arrived to be their servants. So now you've got 4 convicts sharing your muddy hut, 4 more mouths to feed. That didn't seem to be the right answer. So the other thing Marsden did is he appointed New Zealand's first ordained minister, a man named John Butler, to be the superintendent of both mission stations. So John Butler, his wife Hannah, and their 2 children arrived in December of 1819. They said, we're not going to live in a muddy little hut, and they built their hut. It was just a simple hut, but John Butler said, I'm not going to live in a simple hut for long. A man of my status deserves to live in a much grander house. And so he drew a plan. And the plan he drew was a 2-storey high, whitewashed wooden home, surrounded by lovely English-style gardens and shell paths, with a jacaranda tree planted in the garden. And you might think he didn't live in a jacaranda, but you might have seen a house not far from here that fits that description. But you might also remember that we've got no forest here. We've got no timber to build a house like that. So those missionary families, their convict servants and their Ngāpuhi helpers, had to walk 10 miles, 16 kilometres up the Kerikeri River. And they felled giant kauri trees, just using axes and saws, and they stacked the logs on the banks of the river. And when the river flooded, they pushed the logs in and had them washed down over waterfalls and rapids out into the basin, at which point the floating logs were going to keep on going out to sea. They had to cut them in a flood. They had to cut those logs, tie them with ropes they'd made from kauri and anchor them to the shore. And amazingly, no one was killed. No one was crushed or drowned while they did that. And then when the floods receded, they dug a saw pit. They hauled the logs ashore and they